hearts be always acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and Redeemer.
Amen.
Please be seated. Owe no one anything except to love one another, for the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. And these things always seem so straightforward and simple until you start to unpack them. I recently saw a poll. It was on the Episcopalian on Facebook website or Facebook page. Is tough love love? And they had options like tough love is never love, tough love is rarely love, tough love is often love, tough love is always love. And it seemed to be that most were saying that tough love is never love. But I don't know. Maybe tough love's not perceived as love by the person in the moment. It's sort of like type 1 and type 2 fun. You know, type 1 is fun that in the moment you're having fun, and type 2 is afterwards like, man, that was really hard, but I'm glad I did it. You know, the backpacking, the climbing things, you know, things that are hard. And I think love is similar. There's sort of a type 1 and a type 2. And some tough love, I think people couch things as tough love when they're really just being pedantic or being jerks. Or saying you have to do it my way and you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. But I think there is room for tough love because I think some people need to hear things as tough love. As I was talking about on Sunday with the ways people learn and the ways you teach them, some people need direct feedback. Some people need that gentle hand. Some people need to be led to discover things. So if you have someone who needs direct feedback and you're not giving it to them in love, they're not going to learn. I think there's also a little piece here too, because it's a matter of whether the correction, and I'm assuming that the love in all these cases is correction. Because if it's not correction, if it's encouragement, then it's easy to say. I don't know if there's a tough love encouragement, unless it's a challenge. But so if we're talking about correcting in love, does the thing you're correcting matter? Because if it doesn't matter, if it's not really that important, then yeah, there's probably no room for tough love in that. You know, it's the way the person is sitting or the way they dress, or unless if it's just a matter of disagreement or opinion, you know, you shouldn't wear tennis shoes in church or something like that. Not a big deal. But if it's, you shouldn't be barefoot walking down the street because there's broken glass, that's the time for tough love. Put some shoes on, you're going to cut your feet up and you're going to get hepatitis. Like that's reasonable to give tough love there. So I think we need to ask whether the thing that we're correcting matters. And then it's that immediacy. It's the I don't want to say danger, but the consequences of not correcting it. Because it could be something that matters, but doesn't have dire consequences. You know, don't walk backwards down the aisle while you're carrying the cross at church. Like, is the world going to end because you do that? No, but it, you know, pulls people out of service. You could fall and hurt yourself. It's just wrong. But if we have when those two things come together, when it matters and there are dire consequences, I think tough love is completely appropriate. And that's back to the barefoot in the glass. But that's, you know, a practical thing. But what about how we interact with people? What about, you know, the fulfillment of our own duty to love? You know, wouldn't it be nice if somebody had expressed some tough love to the people of Nazareth when they heard Jesus and they started saying, but isn't this Mary's kid? Isn't this the carpenter's boy? We know his brothers and sisters. And then he was unable to do deeds of power because of their unbelief. Jesus was unable to do something because of the people's unbelief. Think about that. Now, if one of the apostles had been like, yeah, it is. Listen to him. Listen to what he's saying. And stood up and pointed out, that these people were getting so wrapped around their axle about the fact that they knew who this kid was, and they remembered him skipping school or, playing games in the street. They might have listened. They might have been able to experience Jesus' acts and power. But no one spoke up. Now, I'm not saying Jesus isn't capable of tough love, because I think that happens a lot, particularly when he's meeting strange women at wells. That's an example of tough love. What was being corrected was important, and the consequences were enough that it needed to be corrected immediately. That's where you land with tough love. And I think if we shy away from that, we lose something. One, because we're exposing people to consequences, whether it's to themselves or others, but also because we're starting to muddle this idea of what matters and what doesn't. And if we don't correct anything, then none of it matters. And if none of it matters, then what's the point? Why does it matter? And so I think it's something that requires a lot more discernment than we would think offhand. Love one another, for the one who loves another has filled the law. If we're getting love in a way that maybe we don't appreciate in the moment because it's that type 2 kind of love, we need to be gracious enough to say, this person is coming to me in love. And if we expect people to come and extend that grace, then we have time to say, oh, this is why they're doing it. I don't agree with it, I prefer it this way, but you still give that room for growth and communication and feedback, because the other thing that matters is, when you receive tough love, is to welcome it and say, thank you, but, or how about next time, and respond in love to the love you receive. Because if we just automatically say, and don't listen, there's no more communication. They're not going to act in love again. And we cut something off. And that's part of the consequences that we're finding, or we're experiencing, because of the act not being corrected in other times. It's, the idea of spoiled children. When they're not corrected, they don't learn how to be corrected. Go back to the idea of teaching karate. I have kids, I think, have never been told no or do it this way in their entire lives. And when they're told no, you're not doing, and very objectively, like, punch with your right hand, they're punching with their left, and you're like, no, you're punching with your left, and they get angry about being told that objectively you're doing something wrong. I told you to punch and you're kicking, you're facing the wrong direction. And they don't know how to take that. Imagine the kind of adults they're going to grow up to be. Now imagine that within that faith life. If we can't accept correction from others who we trust and trust to love us, what kind of Christians are we going to grow up to be? To God be all the glory, now and forever.
Amen.